Forget the Mercedes loophole, forget Red Bull's power unit hype. While everyone's arguing over who's fastest in 2026, they're missing the fact that the championship was already decided in a boardroom 3 years ago. Formula One hasn't just changed the rules, they've built a trap. And McLaren, they just walked right into it. The reigning world champions are openly telling anyone who'll listen that they're only 4th fastest now. 4th, not 2nd, not 3rd. The team that dominated 2025 with both titles has already written off 2026 before the season's even started. And the reason should terrify every Formula One fan who isn't supporting a works team. Because the 2026 regulations didn't create a performance war, they created a knowledge war. And half the grid surrendered before the first lap was ever turned. Here's what testing actually revealed. Mercedes logged 2,328 kilometers in Barcelona. Flawless, clinical. Their customer Alpine, running the exact same engine, struggled to string together half that mileage. Same power unit, different universe. Red Bull's brand new engine ran seamlessly from day one because the car and power unit were born together. Aston Martin's works Honda deal? A complete disaster. 4.5 seconds off the pace. The car looks undrivable. This isn't about who built the better engine, it's about who had the information first. Works teams spent 3 years designing chassis around the exact energy demands they knew were coming. They understood the battery behavior, the deployment curves, the cooling requirements, the weight distribution compromises. Every single variable was known and optimized for. Customer teams got a spec sheet 6 months before the car had to be finalized. You cannot win that game. It's structurally impossible. And McLaren knows it. That's why they're already talking about how this formula fundamentally favors works teams, how the energy management is so complex that the integration advantage is insurmountable. They're softening the blow for when they spend 2026 fighting for 4th instead of 1st. The team that embarrassed everyone in 2025 is now making excuses in February 2026. But wait, if it's this obvious, why did teams like McLaren and Aston Martin agree to these rules in the first place? The answer is more sinister than you think. Because when the 2026 regulations were being written, customer teams were promised this was the great equalizer. Simpler aero, cheaper power units. More battery power means engine differences matter less, right? Wrong. The battery didn't equalize anything. It made the gap worse. Because now performance isn't just about horsepower, it's about energy deployment strategy, harvest optimization, thermal management, and chassis integration so complex that Max Verstappen said you need a degree to understand it. And all of that requires information that only works teams possess. McLaren thought having the benchmark Mercedes engine would be enough. It was enough in 2025 when the regulations were more stable and the energy demands were simpler. But 2026, Mercedes had a 3-year head start designing their car around knowing exactly how their battery behaves under every conceivable condition. McLaren's still guessing. Aston Martin thought throwing money at the problem would work. New factory, new wind tunnel, Adrian Newey, Works Honda partnership, unlimited ambition. But Honda left them at the altar. The Japanese manufacturer dissolved its Formula One division, then reassembled it 18 months too late. Now Newey's trying to build a marriage out of broken parts, and the car's so far off the pace that Lance Stroll's only compliment after 3 days of testing was the livery looked good. That's not a development problem, that's a structural deficit baked into the regulations. And it gets worse because these engines are frozen. Development is restricted. The cost cap means you can't spend your way out of trouble. If you started 2026 6 months behind on integration knowledge, you're staying 6 months behind for 4 years. The next engine regulation change isn't until 2030, which means McLaren, Alpine, Williams, Haas, Aston Martin, every single customer team is locked into fighting with one hand tied behind their back until the end of the decade. McLaren won everything in 2025 and they've already accepted defeat in 2026. That should be the headline. That should be the scandal. Because if the reigning constructors champions with the best engine on the grid can't compete, what does that say about everyone else? Williams missed an entire test because they underestimated the packaging demands. The car's overweight, compromised, and they're stuck with it. Alpine's running the championship-winning Mercedes engine and got out-millaged by Haas in Bahrain. Haas, the team with the smallest budget on the grid, looked more prepared than a Renault-backed works operation turned Mercedes customer. The midfield is dead. There is no best of the rest anymore. There's works teams who might steal podiums and customer teams who'll celebrate making qualifying 3. Even Haas, the one customer team that looks halfway competent, only survives because they've been with Ferrari so long that the information flow finally matured. And they still finished 4th in testing mileage. 4th, because even the best customer relationship is still just that, a customer. This is Formula One's 2026 legacy. Not closer racing, not sustainability. A regulatory structure that guarantees the rich get richer and everyone everyone else fights for 7th. And the truly damning part? McLaren saw it coming. They knew the works team advantage would be real. They publicly said it, and they still couldn't do anything about it. Because you can't. The trap was already built into the rules. The engine war's over. Works teams won. And nobody even noticed until testing was already done.